In just 11 weeks, you're supposed to have your troops out of Mosul, out of Bakuba, out of other major cities, and you have had an uptick in violence in recent days. Will you meet the deadline?
We will continue to conduct assessments along with the government of Iraq as we move towards the June 30th deadline. If we believe that we'll need troops to maintain a presence in some of the cities, we'll recommend that. But ultimately, it'll be the decision of Prime Minister Maliki. The United States and the government of Iraq signed an agreement, a bilateral agreement that put the timeline in place that said we would withdraw all our forces by 31 December 2011. In my mind, that was historic. It allowed Iraq to prove that it has its own sovereignty. It allows them now to move forward and take control, which was it's always been our goal, is that they can control the stability in their country. So I think I feel comfortable with that timeline. I did back in December. I do now.
On a scale of 1 to 10, sir, how confident are you, 10 being fully confident, that you will meet that deadline, that all U.S. troops will be gone at the end of 2011?
As you asked me today, I believe it's a 10, that we will be gone by 2011.
Where do you see the president taking this country in terms of government's role?
Well, I think he intends to expand it.
I do agree with Tom. When it comes to health care, we don't want socialized medicine, but there is an appropriate role for government to expand coverage, to make it more affordable.
We don't need more money in health care. What we have is a very inefficient system, and we haven't allowed market forces to allocate resources. What we need is true markets that will allocate this resource and create a way for everyone to have access.
The one big concern a lot of the private sector has is the president in his program has supposedly as a provider of last resort a government program, and the concern is they'll be able to do it so much more cheaply, or at least in terms of the cost, that everybody will end up in the government program.
Well, it's a debate we need to have, Chris, and I'm agnostic on that as we sit here this morning.
This week, Defense Secretary Robert Gates came forward with some pretty significant reforms in the Pentagon budget, actually an overall increase in the Pentagon budget of about 4%, but within that, more money devoted towards irregular, asymmetric wars.
Look, the thing that's been wonderful is watching Republican congressmen saying, but this will cost jobs. The very same Republican congressmen who were denouncing the stimulus plan, saying government spending never creates jobs, but cutting defense spending costs jobs. It's wonderful.
Geithner has to go back, does he not, for another bunch of money?
They say no, but I think yes. It's the real answer. They had this elaborate scheme with the FDIC providing backing off budget for this thing, but I think they're going to have to come back for another stimulus plan in the end, because unemployment is going to keep rising, even if we have an end to the recession formally. You know, the last recession, unemployment kept rising 18 months after the recession was declared over. That's going to happen again. So they're going to probably find that they need to do something more for the economy.
I think there will be a second stimulus. I'd prefer to see it on the tax side rather than the spending side, but I think there's going to have to be some dramatic effort because I think this is not going to work. I mean, I think they're going to find out they're not able to turn it around. If you talk about stopping the slide, it may or may not work. If you talk about launching a major recovery, I think there's almost no hope.
For 2 years, the Democrats and then candidate Obama criticized the Bush administration for our policies in the war on terror, or whatever they call it now, and I think it's perfectly appropriate for Vice President Cheney to defend the policies of the United States. I don't think he was being bombastic. I think that would have been easier for the Obama administration to be able to say something along the lines of, I know George Bush loved his country, I love mine too, and I take my responsibility very seriously. I'm going to protect our country as well. I just might do it in a different way. And then we wouldn't have had this debate, which might not have been as much fun.